Hey everyone, this is Jack and Alec with It Takes Guts.
Hope you're all doing well.
Today, incredibly excited. Berserk chapter 376 just dropped. Been since October since the last release.
Yeah.
I've been hungry. I've been starving. And we finally have something to eat here.
It's been a while. Kouji, Mori, and Studio Gaga has kind of taken their time, which I've heard they've had chapters done in the past, and I don't know if they're kind of holding on to them or what the release schedule is. If anyone's read that one post back last year when he said they're on path to make it in 10 years, it's kind of it's a rocky road for Berserk fans, but we're trying to get through it with these chapter releases.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I cannot be in my late 30s when this shit ends up, but, it is what it is. Still just incredibly excited to have anything. And this chapter really kind of pushed the story forward, finally. Kind of have some direction in the story again, which is incredibly exciting as a Berserk fan.
Yeah, I was kind of waiting for us to get off the boat. I know it's not as long as the original boat arc between Fantasia, but this one felt like it was bit with Guts just kind of in the zone in the cabin. So now we're finally in Kushan territory with Rickard and the gang, and there's a lot of tension happening. Salat, of course, is kind of that, like, in the middle grounds of a hero or not with the gang, so he's kind of just chaining Guts in the basement, as he says, for his own safety. We all know that's kind of cap. We know Guts, if he wanted to, that whole camp's dead, but we don't know what he will do, or if he'll break out, or if he'll just kind of accept it. Guts sometimes accepts his capture situations, and he'll kind of let that happen until the situation changes. But I think that's the main part right now, is when Guts will decide to, accept his capture or leave.
Right. Because, at the end of the day, they have a common enemy. And I think if they have the chance to reason with Guts and say, hey, we're going to go to war, we're going to take down Griffith, there's no way he denies that request. But the question is does he come out swinging, or does he give them the chance? But chapter starts with a really cool kind of portion where Guts is kind of floating through the ethereal plane. We see Shirka's hand come out, and it really brings up a lot of questions, because then it cuts back and it shows that he is in those chains, but he's obviously not in the Berserk armor, but it kind of seems like he's still fighting those dark urges. So really kind of questions, like, even though he's not physically wearing the armor, has it intertwined with his soul at this point, and it's a constant fight despite not wearing it?
Yeah, that to me is interesting, because Shirke's always done that, astral plane projection to get in his brain when he's in the Berserk armor, when he's uncontrollable, which he's not. So it's like, is this affecting him without the armor, or is this something where Shirke's just trying to wake him up from this overwhelming trauma he's kind of experiencing since the loss of Casca? I don't really know what that is going to kind of portray, especially with Shirke not being in the body and really no one else knowing that she's even doing this for Guts. They kind of think she's lost on her own accord, but we know that she's helping Guts. But I don't really know what that means without the Berserker armor included in the combination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we kind of just see Rickard posed as the arbiter between the two camps. Obviously, they're not physically chained up like Guts is, but the rest of the crew, we haven't seen their weapons, so it kind of seems like you're under our control. They even mentioned that since you are a refugee, it's Kushan law that you're serving in our army. So it kind of seems like, hey, we need you to help fight these people, but it's not really your choice. So it always kind of creates an interesting dynamic there, and I'm interested to see how those tensions go, if they do kind of come to that quick resolution and have peace between them, or if we will see a fight before they even get to the war. So that's something that's really interesting to keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, I think Salat probably has other motives right now with the gang he just captured. He probably think he got a big steal with this new black swordsman on his side, maybe. So I think there's probably a change in the war plans with the new crew they just kind of obtained. I know they're kind of talking about keeping the mages from Elfhelm under the new Kushan Sages directory, which I don't know. They kind of made it sound like it was a prison situation where they're not really free will. It's more so under your control. But the way Daiba kind of made it sound, it was more like a mentorship almost in a weird way. I know other mages in there were kind of like, what's our fate? So I'm thinking they're probably going to be trained or something of that regard, just because they weren't sent away. Same with how Rickard's crew was able to follow Salat. They weren't put away into wherever Guts was. So obviously there's some sort of hierarchy going on where Rickard has some sort of power, but not enough power to save Guts right now. But I think the main thing I noticed from this chapter too is just seeing the introduction of the new kind of Band of the Hawk that Griffith is showing, that last panel of the monsters, the whole Falconia army being one with the humans and the the apostles that Griffith has under his arm. So I think that to me was a really cool ending panel to show where we're going with the story.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, because one of the biggest questions of kind of post-Miura Berserk is there's the Chekhov's gun, or rather the Chekhov's time bomb, with Pandemonium being right behind Falconia. And so when will that be unleashed on the city? Will it be because of the war with the Kushan? So I think that's really interesting, because right now they have a whole village, rather an entire capital of brainwashed citizens. So really excited to see how that plays out. But you're absolutely correct. The Kushan mage kind of is saying, hey, we have all these really powerful wizards and witches and magic wielders from Elfland, and kind of uses that and saying, hey, your place was reduced to mist, and we're next, so kind of need to band together to fight the Band of the Hawk. So I think that's really interesting. One thing that I did note about this is kind of paneling and artwork. Obviously Miura is a masterclass, rest in peace, but there were some moments through this chapter where you can kind of tell that it's not his pen anymore.
Yeah, I think the main one to me is that first big panel shot of the escaping overview of the city. And to me, if you look at the fine detail of the back kind of blocks of buildings, they're just kind of squares. And personally, when I look at some of Miura's art, it's hard to find the parts where he kind of stops drawing. It feels like he just doesn't put down the pen. So when you look at that kind of stuff, it's like, yeah, it's not Miura's Berserk anymore. We're kind of in the Studio Gaga era with Kouji Mori, which is still excellent. I'm happy they're doing it, period. As I've said before, rather would take this over just a little article of how it was supposed to go. So whatever they pull up together, I'm here for it. And even so, the character models and the design, the hairs, the facial features, the textures, they all look great. The shading looks great. Salat in general, I think his armor design, the way he pulls down his mask looked awesome. I think they're really doing it well. The one thing I will say that's not art driven, it's more so the gaps in story. There's a conversation with Rickert and Puck in the end where he's kind of like, oh, do you remember me, like, from the traveling gang? And Puck's like, who? And even Isidro's like, you don't remember? Like, you're stupid, which we know Puck's stupid. The way he lost himself away from home because he was a bored, dumb elf. So we know he's not the brightest dude, but at the same time, you wonder, is that because Miura didn't have notes for that conversation and they're just kind of just doing what they can? They know these two characters have interacted before, but they don't really know what they would say at this point in time, and they didn't want to force something, so maybe out of respect for Miura, they didn't just create some bubble. They just kind of said, we don't know each other, which I think could work both ways. It could just be Puck's dumb, and I'm willing to accept that Puck's dumb. He's shown it. But it also could be the sad part that we might get some more of those interactions happening where they don't really have those connected tissues, and makes me think of when Salat and Guts meet again, what that conversation will be like.
And I think that's a really good point, because obviously when Rickert and Puck crossed lines, it was a really important part of the story. Obviously Puck wasn't there for the Golden Age, so wasn't there for the original Band of Hawk, but it definitely doesn't seem like something that he would forget about, especially with like Griffith coming back and being on the Hill of the Swords and everything like that. Really, really strange decision there, but I think Alec has a point that they can't just not address it, because it should be an interaction that happens, but if they don't have notes for it, they might really just try to go with Miura's, which I think actually might be a good sign. They're not really going to try to do any creative direction on their own. If they don't have direction from Miura, they might just kind of do these little, I don't want to say cop-outs, but Omissions, exactly, yeah. So I think that's a really interesting thing, but kind of looking onward from here, I think we have a lot of really great manga ahead of us. I just cannot wait to see not only how the war ensues, but I'm excited to see how they draw the wars, because obviously the big fleeting high-scale battle scenes is a big trademark of this series, and without, like he mentioned, Miura's direction, some of those houses not being detailed, how would that look on a battlefield with some of those background soldiers? And I'm interested to see that as well.
Yeah, I think of stuff like the Ganishka War, where it was the whole Beast Army versus the Shiva, and like the panels of his foot stomping on like 10,000 horses at once. Like, I don't know if he's going to be able to replicate the scale that Miura did. Studio Gaga, of course, worked under him, trained under him. A lot of those assistants personally were working with him. So I believe they got it. If anyone's got it, the team that worked with them has it. But it's one of those things that's always going to be a little bit of an asterisk when you're reading Berserk. It's just something that we got to kind of go through as fans. But I think one of the most poignant ends of the chapter was Rickert pointing out that Casca's not with the gang when they captured them, and his immediate thought goes to Griffith, which I think shows a lot of growth for Rickert. I know before at the Hill of Swords, he was kind of caught between Guts and Griffith. He liked both of them. That was his old captain. Guts is his old friend. It's hard to kind of for a kid to make those moral stark decisions when people are just shouting big phrases at you about why they're right. So I think Griffith being that kind of edge in Rickart's mind already, was hearing information. I think it shows that Rickart's kind of already on the path that they got to take him down.
Right. And if you think about it, it's been a year of real time since we've seen Casca, because I think it was back in last April that we saw her wake up there and kind of have that little struggle to escape. So I'm interested to see when it checks back over there and see any developments there, if Casca has kind of succumbed to it and allowed herself to kind of be brought in, or if she's still kind of fighting. Either way, we have a lot of really great stuff ahead of us, and just incredibly excited as a fan.
Yep, so here's the 377 when we get it next year, or something of that kind. We're hoping for this summer maybe, but Lord knows we get these Berserk chapters as crumbs every now and again. So we'll take what we get. Another awesome chapter. We're hoping for the next one to be just as good, and hope the story continues to push forward in this last arc. And let's hope it takes a little bit quicker than 10 years.
Yeah, I totally agree. And we will be checking back in with you all as those new chapters come out. So might be 2026, who knows. So anyway, that kind of wraps up everything we were hoping to chat with you about on this episode here. We're relatively new to the channel, so if you enjoyed the content, feel free to drop a like. We will have some more manga and anime content coming. Berserk specific, we do plan to have a top 3 individual arcs, hopefully coming up this weekend, so keep an eye out for that.
Yep, and thank you for watching the video if you're still around here, and remember, it takes guts to subscribe, so thank you for watching.